Hello and welcome to this special Young Women Engineer of the Year programme, new to 2020. I'm Danielle George, President of the Institution of Engineering and Technology, and I'm so excited to be part of this programme, shining a light on this year's YWE finalists and the outstanding work they're doing up and down the country to engineer a better world for us all. The IET's Young Women Engineer of the Year Awards have been celebrating women working in modern engineering for more than 40 years and aim to help change the perception that engineering is predominantly a career for men by banishing outdated engineering stereotypes of hard hats and greasy pipes. The awards continue to raise awareness of what engineers do by honouring the very best early career female engineers working in the UK today. Generally, people aren't aware of the incredible breadth of engineering in the 21st century. Today, engineering covers everything from designing our future cities and transport to coming up with new healthcare technologies. Engineering and technology are improving our world and shaping our future, touching every part of our lives. And recognising and showcasing the outstanding female engineers has never been so important. As well as highlighting female engineering talent, the IET Young Women Engineer of the Year Awards seeks to find role models who can help address the UK science and engineering skills crisis by promoting engineering careers to more girls and women. Even though 1 in 5 people work in the engineering profession, the UK still faces a nationwide skills shortage. What's even more surprising is that just 12% of those working in engineering are women, highlighting that there is plenty more to be done to promote equality, diversity, and inclusion in STEM fields. I can't wait for you to meet this year's finalists. From supercars and submarines to healthcare and keeping people safe, these young women are doing incredible things every single day to improve our world. Ahead of the ceremony on the 4th of March, this programme gives us the chance to get to know this year's finalists and to find out what inspires them and why they chose engineering in the first place. And we'll end with a live Q&A session so you can ask the finalists any questions you might like to ask. But first, here's a sneak peek into what our Young Woman Engineer of the Year Awards are all about.
We're thrilled that you're able to join us here this evening to come together and witness some of the truly talented and inspirational young female engineers.
If you have the skills and enthusiasm, then you can succeed no matter who you are. So thank you so much for coming along this evening, and good luck to all the finalists. I have no doubt that your stories will inspire many, many young girls to take a closer look at the remarkable things they could achieve as an engineer.
This was an amazing event, much fun it's been just leading up to this, and all the IET TV work that we've done. It's been awesome, so thank you guys so much.
Capture the imagination of young girls everywhere, change the world.
Wow, as you can see, they really are such inspiring awards, and each year YWE just gets bigger and better. This year, we received more than 135 applications for the awards, so the YWE team and the judges had some really difficult decisions to make to narrow it down to just our final 6. This year, YWE is sponsored by some incredible companies, and you will get the chance to meet them at the ceremony in March. So let's get started. Our first finalist this year is an electronic engineer at LV. She engineers smart tech that improves the lives of cis women and trans men, whilst breaking down barriers and smashing taboos. Meet Shrook.
It took more than 160 years to realize that people who breastfeed do not want to be treated like dairy cows. At LV, as an electronic engineer, I get to work on really cool tech like smart, silent, wearable breast pumps. and other cool tech like smart pelvic floor trainers solving problems like incontinence, something that happens to around 80% of people who give birth, but it's such a taboo. People don't talk about it, that people who experience it don't know that it's something that could happen to them until it does. Didn't really realize that a place like this exists in engineering, somewhere that really aligns with my values and somewhere where I feel like I can be completely, totally and unapologetically me. I love that I get to transform people's lives for a living. Being an engineer is my superpower.
It's great to meet you, Shruk. I love it that your work improves the lives of so many people, and there must be so many great things to love about your job. But what do you love most about it?
I love that I get to transform people's lives for a living. That's probably what I love the most about my job. But I just love kind of the sheer amount of engineering that I get to do. And for the past 6 months, I feel like I've done more engineering than I've done probably in the past 3 years combined. And I'm never really kind of given an exact design brief. I'm just given a problem and asked to go and solve it. And I love that. I really love that. But what I also love about being an engineer generally is that I feel I can do whatever I want. I've built a machine that can detect cancer based on electron quantum spin. I built a car and raced it. I've made robots for a living. And right now I'm working on an emergency ventilator for coronavirus patients. And I just feel like being an engineer is my superpower.
Oh, that's so good. Is that why you chose engineering then? Just because you love solving problems, you love not knowing how to do that and the challenge of how to actually solve that problem?
I didn't really know it was called engineering. So when I became interested in engineering, I just thought it was magic. I remember like watching my TV and realizing that the people on it are not actually real people living inside it. And back then, those TVs were huge. Like they could have been small people living inside it, right? And just realizing that this is a machine built by people like me was just mind-blowing. And I was like, wait, does that mean I can do the same? Can I do the same magic? And honestly, I feel like if it was introduced to me as engineering, I might have not ever been interested in it because there's this very specific idea of what an engineer is that maybe people talk about, which is not true at all.
Yeah, and I mean, that's what we're trying to do across the IET, but certainly this year in our 150th anniversary year is sort of smash those stereotypes. You are absolutely the engineer that we need to see. And we're celebrating like difference makers like you from all over the world as well, which is really exciting. And I'm super honored to be president whilst we're doing this as well. Is there a difference maker out there that inspired you to get into engineering?
Somebody who really had an effect on me when I was younger was my science teacher in primary school. And she told me a real scientist always asks why. Why are these people on my TV? Why can I breathe? Why is there a voice at the other line of the telephone? How does this all work? And I think that for me just made me really curious and really wanting to understand how everything works on a really, really kind of basic level, so like the lowest level possible. And I'm like, okay, but how does the transistor work and how does it make all of these gates, which makes all of this kind of software work together, you know? And somebody who inspires me still today, I think would be Yewande Akinola.
Yeah, great difference maker, yeah. She's
incredible. I remember finding out about Yewande Akinola a few years ago and realizing that, you know, she's a principal engineer, she is MBE, and she's kind of presented all of these engineering programs on Discovery Channel, on Channel 4, and she's creative, she's a dancer like me, and just to see that somebody as a role model is just incredible. And it's that creativity as well, because I feel like we're missing out on so much creativity in engineering, and I really just wonder what the world would have looked like if we told these creative people that engineering is for them too. What kind of amazing inventions would we have had by now?
And that's such an important message, isn't it? Creativity is very much a part of engineering, and that sort of mindset, isn't it? You know, we have we want to be problem solvers, we build up resilience, and we're definitely creative as well. Do you think it's important that we have role models for young people?
Absolutely. I feel like growing up, I felt like I didn't really have a role model that represented me enough as a child that I could look up to and be like, yes, this is the person I want to be when I'm older. So I felt like I had to be my own role model.
You are such a difference maker, and I love talking to you, Shrug. Absolutely inspiring, and congratulations, and very best of luck as well.
Thank you.
Our next finalist this year is a Royal Academy of Engineering Research Fellow at the James Watt School of Engineering at the University of Glasgow. She leads a research group focusing on rapid and cost-effective systems to improve environmental and medical diagnostics. And her work crosses the engineering, science, clinical and social science disciplines to help achieve a healthier world. Meet Melanie.
When you're making art for someone, it is a whole creative process, thinking about what the person might like, the tools you might need to the actual doing part. Engineering is the same process. It is all about creating to make people's life better. In my case, it starts with a challenge, for example, a clinician asking if we could create something to better diagnose a disease. As an engineer, you have access to a whole set of tools and knowledge to tap your inspiration from. You start connecting the dots in a way no one imagined before. And this process is nurtured by your own curiosity, engaging with people, working in lots of different fields, and all together keeping an open mind on what can be created. And trust me, that curiosity can take you very far. I'm now working on some of the biggest medical challenges, and I haven't studied biology at school since I was 17. That's the beauty of engineering.
Hi, Melanie. It is great to meet you. I think it's fantastic that you've been able to incorporate your love of art and design in your engineering job as well. What do you love most about your job?
So what I love the most about my job is really the fact that it keeps challenging me, you know. It's having the opportunity to work on different medical challenges, but it's also the fact that the environment is very dynamic. So for each challenge, I will gain new knowledge, and I will also work with new people. So I work with clinicians, but I also work with designers, I work with teachers. So it changes for every project. So that's really what keeps it, you know, very interesting for me.
Is that why you chose engineering as a career path then, that sort of challenge mentality?
So it was the challenge mentality, but it was also the fact that I saw engineering as that science at the interface of other sciences, if you want. And because I like very different fields of engineering, I thought that that would work quite well for me. And just to give an example, with my, process engineering degree, I had the opportunity to work in very, different fields, from renewable energies to water treatment and now medical sciences. So yeah, I would definitely do it all over again.
Great. Well, as you know, the IET, we're celebrating our 150th anniversary year. So it's a really special year, I think. And we're celebrating difference makers, and you are an amazing difference maker. And we're celebrating them from all over the world as well. Is there a difference maker out there that inspired you, either when you were younger or inspires you now?
It has to be my mom. And I'm not just saying that because she's watching, but she's not working in a STEM subject. But I grew up in an environment where I was given the freedom to explore what I wanted to be, without judgment or what I could or could not do, and with a lot of support. And, I think parents are key influencers when it comes to what a child is going to consider for a career. So that made such a massive difference for me. So yeah. Thank you very much, Mom.
That is lovely. Yeah. And, part of what we want to do generally in the IET, but definitely in our 150th year is inspire that next generation and make sure we've got some amazing engineers working on the amazing challenges that we've got throughout the world as well. What would you say to someone who is maybe thinking about starting a career in STEM?
So what I would say is that from my own experience, a career in STEM is extremely fulfilling because it is about better understanding the world that we live in, but also how to act on it. And my advice would be to try to gain, as many experiences as possible with people working in STEM, because it's not only about the job description, it's also about the environment that is going to work for us. And, it might take a couple of tests before we figure out what works for us, and that's absolutely fine. So the sooner we can start that exploration work, the better, I would say.
How would you describe engineering to maybe someone in primary school?
So I would say that engineering is about using science and technologies to solve challenges to make people's life better, really. And we are surrounded by engineering, even if we don't realize it. It's from bridges to makeup, it's everywhere.
How important is it, do you think, that as engineers, we do go out and help inspire the next generation so we do get the children who see the spark?
It is essential. So diversity is just, so important for the survival of the field. We see diversity everywhere in nature, right? Well, we need the same thing for engineering. That's what makes it work. And, the brain is really good at making associations between worlds. And we know that, worlds related to science can tend to be more associated with, for example, male figures. So if we want to work on those unconscious biases, there is no other choice. We need to increase visibility.
Good. And it shouldn't just be like a byproduct, should it? Or something we do if we've got a bit of time. It should be absolutely part of our role, I think.
It should be embedded. Yeah, it's the role of everyone, because you never know what kind of impact, even unconsciously, that can have on someone, just the fact that they saw you. So absolutely. Yeah,
great. Well, it's lovely talking to you, Melanie. You are without a doubt an amazing difference maker. Best of luck. Huge congratulations for becoming a finalist, and best of luck to you.
Oh, thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Our next finalist is a project engineer at Transport for London. Working in the Major Projects Directorate, she currently manages work on the Elephant and Castle Station Capacity Upgrade project. Meet Neera.
Having been born and raised in London, TfL has been a massive part of mine and my family's lives.
The buses helped me to get to school every morning, the trains helped me visit my parents on the weekends when I was at university, and the entire network now helps me connect with old friends who live on the other side of the city.
I'm now working for the oldest metro system in the world, where I get to positively impact my friends and family's journeys in and around London. The transport network is the beating heart of the city, and I am proud to help keep London moving. I'm now volunteering at girls' schools across East London, where I'm paying it forward and trying to encourage as many girls as possible into the engineering world. I'm trying to break down the stereotypes to show them that women can design buildings, women can code, women can be leaders, and most importantly, women can be engineers.
Hi Neera, it is great to meet you. You must be so busy managing the Elephant and Castle upgrade project, and there must be so many great things to love about your job, but what is the one thing you love the most?
So working for TfL, I think naturally working for something that impacts the city is like really the exciting part of it. But for me, it's the fact that every day I learn something new, because so working on Elephant and Castle, for example, it's a multidisciplinary project, and my background's predominantly mechanical. So I've got to learn about so many different things, and every day I'm Googling or trying to go through my old lecturing notes to find out stuff. And so it's really like, that's the most exciting part, the fact that one day I might be doing something to do with, heavy civils like pipe jacking, which I've never even done before. And another day I'm looking at, human factors aspects on how the station's going to operate and stuff. So I think for me, it's just the fact that no day is the same and everything's so different, and I'm learning so much constantly, but also the fact that I'm actually impacting the city at the same time by doing all this. So it's really cool.
Yeah, it sounds very cool. And as a university lecturer, I'm very glad that you looked at all the notes as well. That's very good. What made you get into engineering in the first place?
So I always say it's kind of like a really unconventional way I got into engineering, because when I was growing up, I was in a predominantly female household, and my dad probably didn't even know what engineering was properly, I guess, and I don't have any family in it. So it was really kind of, I came to it by chance, by literally just Googling. And when I was in college, basically, I had to fill out my UCAS application, and I think I went through about 30 different things that were involved with like art and maths and all these random things, and I came across mechanical engineering, and I took my dad to the open days at university, and he was just like, what the hell, is this really what you want to do? Because he'd never heard me say that I wanted to do it. But it was really just through reading and researching and the internet, basically, that I found out what mechanical engineering was and what it meant to do it in industry after my degree. And it sounded like something I would like. So I took the gamble and just went and studied it at university. And like, I'm so lucky that it's almost like the perfect fit for me, but I just didn't really know it until a lot later down in my like educational life.
What is it about engineering that attracts that sort of challenge mentality, do you think?
So I think the thing that always made me kind of feel it was really interesting is the fact that you're solving problems, number one, but also the way you solve those problems can be so varied. And I actually really believe it's a creative role, because you have to think of different ways to do things. And if something's been, so for working at TfL, things have been done the same way for hundreds of years, and sometimes they don't work, or things need to change because we've got new technology. So it's kind of like thinking out of the box, like how can you do something a little bit more different, or how can you like slightly put your twist on it. And that's why I kind of love it, because it's really technical and geeky and maths and physics orientated, but then it's really like cool and creative, and you get to try out new like processes and come up with all these wacky like workshop ideas and stuff. So it's like, for me, the best of both worlds, I think.
You're making a difference. I mean, and that's what engineers do, don't they? You will be an amazing role model for so many young people as well, which I think is lovely.
Yeah, it's great. And I kind of always think back, like, who are the people that have, when I watch TV or do my research on the internet, all these people that I've looked at and thought, oh my God, that's amazing. Wow, I'd want to do what they're doing. And it's quite a nice thought to think, although I'm really early on in my career, if I can even just do that for one young person in a school, if I want to do STEM events, or in the future, like that's just, it's on a full 360. So it's like a nice idea.
Well, as you know, at the IET, we celebrate difference makers all the time, but especially in our 150th anniversary year as well, we get to sort of shine a light on difference makers all over the world. Was there a sort of one specific difference maker that inspired you when you've been growing up?
So I think because I didn't really know about the whole engineering world, I think I've more had, so Roma Agrawal, she's a structural engineer, but she's more been the difference maker for me since I've been in industry. So I think during my university and college days, I was a bit all over the place, didn't really know anything, or didn't have a plan. But since I've kind of been in the industry, I've been opened up to so many different amazing men and women in the engineering industry. And Roma for me is such a great role model, because it's easy to kind of look at someone that looks similar to you and think, I can do what you're doing. And the great thing about, I think, Roma is she's not just an engineer. So she's a fantastic engineer, and she's worked on the Shard, which is so cool. But she's also been in an M&S leading ladies adverts, and she's done TEDx talks, and she's written a book. And so for me, she is like the 21st century modern female engineer, and it is just so great to see it. And she literally, everything new she does, I'm there for it. And that's kind of the thing that I think is amazing about her.
Yeah, and she's a mother as well, which she's got parenthood in there as well. She's got it all going on, hasn't she? And what would you say then if you were having that conversation with a younger person who was maybe thinking about going into STEM?
I would say 100% go for it, because if someone like me, who didn't even know probably what an engineer really was until I basically applied for the course at university, can do it, and I'm really enjoying it. If you're even just thinking about it, you'll 100% enjoy it. And it's so varied. Like, you can't, you could be doing anything. Like if you love marine engineering, medical engineering, railways, it's so varied that I definitely believe there is an engineering job out there for every single person that wants to do it. And that's the great thing about it.
Thank you so much, Neera. It's such a pleasure to talk to you. I wish we could talk more. Congratulations so much on becoming a finalist of YWE. You should be super proud of yourself. You're a massive difference maker. So thank you very much and good luck.
Thank you so much. It was lovely speaking with you.
Our next finalist is a materials engineer for luxury British supercar maker McLaren Automotive. She's responsible for all the material investigations in the business across development phases of the company's supercars, from concept drawings all the way to customers in the field. Meet Ella.
I consider myself to be a hybrid scientist engineer, someone who creates a solution for application but also presents it in the best possible way. It's a common misconception that engineers are not creative, they're numbers people, they don't have an impact on product design, when actually this is the furthest thing from it. This attention to detail is what inspires me. My day-to-day involves me analysing things on a microscopic level. It's making those small changes that allow us to make something so elegant and beautiful. When we bring those small changes, that is where we're able to make something harness extreme performance. And it's this making a difference that I deem as engineering. It's more than just function. It's tailoring the laws of physics to aesthetics, beauty, and style.
Okay, it's great to meet you, Ella. What an exciting job you have on McLaren's incredible supercars. There must be so many things to love about that. What do you love most about your job?
Oh, it's such a tricky question. I absolutely adore my job, and I think it's very easy for engineers to say that they love fixing things or coming up with solutions. It's quite a cliche thing for a scientist or an engineer to say, but of course I absolutely adore that aspect of my job. But for me, I think it's got to be the performance element of it. So yes, I adore coming up with solutions, but the thing that gets me absolutely excited is coming up with a solution that can shave off 2 kilos off already the world's lightest supercar. And I think for me, that's what makes it so exciting. We also have fantastic opportunities of getting cars around tracks. And if I have that opportunity to contribute towards the world's fastest lap around the Top Gear test track, for example, or being able to contribute to something a bit bigger than just a function and solving a problem, it's so awesome.
During our 150th anniversary year, we're celebrating difference makers and trying to shine a light on difference makers from across the world as well, which is brilliant and super exciting. Is there a difference maker that really inspired you, either in your job now or maybe when you were growing up?
It's a good question. And it's something that I think when I do these STEM talks and I go to schools, like a lot of students do pick up on the sense that who was your role model? Who would you look towards in your industry and things? And one of the main difference makers that I loved and was a big key to me going to Manchester was Alan Turing. So I absolutely, of course, what he did for modern day technology, the way he's advanced computers and everything that we have electronic wise that he's done today is incredible. But I think also his personal story, battling with what his beliefs were and what his journey was, but still completed what he loved. And that's such an important thing for me. And I think girls getting into science, girls getting into engineering, we do come across a particular sort of kink in our journey that would make us think, oh, am I suited to this? Or there aren't many people out there who are relatable to me, for example. Should I still follow this passion? And he did it anyway, and he just did something amazing. And I think he is an underappreciated hero. So I absolutely adored him.
Yeah. Do you think it's important that the sort of next generation does see people who are relatable to them?
Absolutely. And I think we should continue all that incredibly important work of getting people to highlight those positions. I've been fortunate in the sense that I have been involved with like HarperCollins fictional novels and rewriting stories about getting girls in dressing up boxes and on a magical adventure into what it's like to be an engineer. And absolutely, we should highlight and showcase that. But I do think we should also broadcast the fact that it doesn't matter if you want to be an engineer on an offshore oil rig and you don't see many girls doing that, because you've got to aim for it anyway. If that's your passion, you should do it. And I think we've got to be careful in the sense that we shouldn't wait for a relatable figure to come and occupy that before we aspire to do it. So that's what I say. And to be honest, I wouldn't be where I am today if I wanted to look for someone in that particular type of position. Growing up, if you want to work with cars, people would be like, "Oh, Ella, that's not you. You wouldn't, I don't think I can see you in a boiler suit or with a spanner." And I'm like, actually, I don't think I can either. And it makes you question it. So you just got to aim for the stars anyway.
Is that what you'd say to someone who was maybe thinking about a career in STEM then?
I think if someone was interested in getting into STEM, I would say, if you want to make a difference, if you want to change the world, it sounds cheesy, but I think it's so the way that the world is moving, there are so many opportunities in STEM subjects. And like I said, everyone could have a job in a STEM related subject. It shouldn't be painted with the brush of having a stigma that it's just simply for numbers people or people who think logically. One of the things that I chat about in my video is that creative thinking as an engineer and artistic thinking is actually just as important as the logical mindset of problem solving and stuff like that. So I would say make sure you do your research, because there are so many different branches of STEM related subjects that you can get into, and make sure that you're aware of them all, and you'll definitely find one that you're passionate about. It's not just fixing things, it's broadcasting to the world and changing the world as well.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Oh, listen, thank you so much, Ella. It's been a pleasure, an absolute pleasure to talk to you. Many congratulations for becoming a YWE finalist, and best of luck as well. Lovely to talk to you.
Thank you.
Our next finalist this year is an apprentice non-destructive examination engineering technician at BAE Systems Submarines. She's responsible for ensuring the structural integrity of submarines, working alongside technicians, confirming critical components are free from unwanted defects. Meet Denise.
Working to guarantee the production of high quality products, it's imperative that we all keep quality at the heart of everything we do. For over 150 years, my hometown, which is famously known for its shipyard, has left a lasting legacy to produce high quality vessels protecting our nation. It gives me a great sense of pride to be part of history being made, where the people living and working within our submarines have put their trust in our quality.
It is great to meet you, Denise. Thank you so much. What a huge responsibility you have in your job, ensuring the integrity of submarines. What do you love most about your job?
Every day as a non-destructive examination person is different from the other. So the various scientific methods we use alongside this cutting edge technology basically means we make things invisible visible. One day I could be using magnetism to find surface breaking cracks unseen with our human eyes, to one day using sound energy to produce this actual image of what lies beneath the surface. So each new day definitely brings a new challenge, which always encourages me to constantly keep learning.
Oh, that's nice. Yeah. And is that why you went into engineering in the first place, that sort of curiosity challenge side?
Yeah, so with that, it was definitely the interest and curiosity, as well as living within the heritage of my town, being so well known for its shipyard and industrial history. What spiked my interest really stemmed from growing up knowing that this small town is a main location for the design, build and commission of really complex nuclear submarines.
And did that inspire you at a very young age? Did you always know you wanted to be an engineer?
At a young age, I actually wanted to be a princess, not because of the tiaras and crowns, but I wanted to change the world. I always knew that I wanted to make it better than what it was when I came into it. So I just knew that I wanted to make a really big difference and make a positive change.
That's brilliant. And I love the parallel between a princess and an engineer. You know, you want to change the world. Well, you're doing that, aren't you?
Yeah, that's exactly it.
Brilliant. During our 150th anniversary year, we've got an amazing opportunity to sort of shine a light on so many difference makers across the world as well. Do you feel and do you realise how much of a difference maker you are?
At first, I didn't realise until it hit me that I was working and like being promoted as a role model against 5 other difference makers, and I was like, wow, the power that we have as a collective and what we are going to encourage to the world is just super powerful, and that really just like inspired me and then made me realise.
Brilliant. And was there a difference maker that inspired you when you were growing up?
I didn't really see many like Filipinas like me that I could relate to. So my difference makers were my parents and my family, who have a really strong lineage of really powerful women. So all their values that they taught me down and encouraging me to be the best I can be without losing myself really inspired my growing up and like made me to the person I am today.
And were they sort of role models for you? The fact that you had a strong sort of female network around you growing up, was that key to you sort of becoming what you become?
It was just knowing my auntie's stories and then my grandma's stories, because actually they're halfway across the world in Philippines, and then I came here when I was 2 years old, so I didn't manage to get that much connection with them, but the calls that we do have and then just like updating with them really made me feel powerful. Like these women are holding their own and fighting their own battles. That really encouraged me to follow along their footsteps.
Yeah. Do you have time in your role to sort of go out into schools and to sort of chat to the next generation about engineering?
So as a STEM ambassador, lots of my chatting to the younger generation was done in-house on site or done at a really big level at the World Skills Conference, where I could speak to loads of young people, families, and anyone who just wanted to listen about how we can really shape our world and situation through STEM and engineering, and how broad it is and the vast opportunities there are.
It's such a lovely feeling, isn't it? You know, when you're talking to younger people and you talk about your work and stuff, and they're like, oh, that's so cool, I didn't know engineers did that.
Yeah, so one of the main things where I did hear a lot of that was my work leading our NDE stall for a Road to Engineering event hosted by BAE in collaboration with IET themselves and a few other institutions, where we had 350 Year 6 kids taking part in these different interactive workshops. And with the scientific techniques we do, they were like, oh my gosh, I didn't know you could see cracks with magnetism, or wow, that light's showing up a crack. It's like magic. And I'm like, whoa, it really is. And you just have to open your eyes to it.
Thank you so much, Denise. It's been lovely talking to you. Many congratulations on becoming a YWE finalist, and best of luck as well. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Danielle.
And finally, we have a junior software engineer at Ultron, UK. She is currently on a graduate apprenticeship scheme, and her work involves developing and testing safety critical software to help keep people safe in their everyday lives. Meet Bethany.
I work in software engineering, where I develop cutting-edge software that keeps people safe in their everyday lives, including when they catch a train. Engineering can be very complex, so being able to simplify complicated concepts and explain them to clients and new teammates is an important part of what I do. This skill also comes in handy when I'm communicating STEM to young people, which I did as part of my university dissertation, and I continue to do as a Cub Scout leader.
28th Barkhampton Cubs must be the most STEM literate Cub pack in the UK by now.
is great to meet you, Beth. And wow, every day must be different in your line of work, mustn't it? What do you love most about your job?
Gosh, well, as you said, I love that every day is different. I love that no 2 days are the same. I think that's something that's quite inherent with a lot of jobs in engineering, is that because you're solving problems that perhaps haven't been solved before, or because you're building something brand new that, there's no necessary instructions on how to do it, and you have to work it out for yourself, that you get to, set yourself new challenges and learn new skills every single day. And it's not boring, to say the least. I would never describe my job as boring. But I also love that in my particular field of building safety critical software, that my work has a tangible positive impact on the world around me. So I'm keeping people safe as they travel by plane or by train, things that you wouldn't necessarily think about, but I know the massive impact that has. And I think that makes my job really rewarding and helps me enjoy it more.
Yeah. And it's really important, isn't it, that we find huge satisfaction in our jobs, because we do with them for a very long time, don't we? So
yeah,
it's really good to make sure we feel satisfied doing it as well. Why did you choose engineering? What made you go into engineering in the first place?
So I've always had an interest in science and maths. I did a physics with astrophysics degree, and when I went to university, I thought that's what I wanted to do forever. I was going to go get a PhD and sort of go straight down the research line. But then in my final year, I did a computational astrophysics module, which taught me how to code for the first time at the age of 21. And it opened up this whole new world of possibilities of, just with a computer, I can build so much stuff, so much different stuff that I wouldn't have been able to do before. And how could this help other people? How could this help the world? So I completely switched tact when I left university. I started looking for software engineering jobs. I wanted something where I could have an impact, whereas I thought maybe doing physics research wasn't going to have as much of a direct impact on the world. And I wanted to do something with my hands, as I learned that that's how I learn best. I learn best by doing rather than reading or listening or anything like that. And so I completely switched and went into software engineering. And I'm very grateful that I managed to find a graduate apprenticeship, which meant I could completely retrain and learn the new skills I needed to move into this profession.
Yeah, absolutely. Were there any sort of difference makers that really inspired you, either in your job or when you were growing up?
Definitely. My mum is probably my biggest inspiration and the biggest difference maker in my life. She never has worked in a STEM career, and I was the first person in my family to go to universities, but she always, nurtured my love for science and maths, encouraged me when I was having days where I might be bullied at school for wanting to be a scientist. She wouldn't let that get me down, and she'd always push me and be there for me. And she's just been a role model in her work ethic and teaching me that there's no obstacle that can't be overcome. It doesn't matter what life throws at you. If you want something, you just go get it, and you don't stop until you've gotten it. And I don't think I'd be where I am, venturing out into a brand new profession after spending 4 years doing a degree, which I know a lot of people will think that's a bit of a waste. Why did I bother going if I'm just going to go do an apprenticeship? But when I told her that's what I wanted to do, she said, go for it. If that's what's going to make you happy, you can make a difference to the world any way you choose. I know you will. And so if it wasn't for her, I wouldn't be where I am today.
Do you, in your job, do you get the chance to go out? I know you do a lot with the Cubs as well, but do you go out into schools and talk about sort of your career and engineering there as well?
Yeah, I do. So obviously not at the moment, not been into any schools recently, but before COVID and the lockdown, I was helping at local digital festivals. So in Bath, there's the Bath Digital Festival, where I went and helped lead a stall about my work, where we were showcasing some of our VR work, where we use virtual reality to train Airbus engineers in how to build gearboxes. And it was an application of VR that a lot of children hadn't seen before. They generally associate it with video games, not with, oh, you can use VR at work. And that made them think that the world of engineering was really cool, really sort of with the times, using the newest technology to do something different. And that was really great. I'm also a member of the WISE Young Professionals Board with work as well. So I use that role to campaign for more gender diversity and gender equality in STEM industries. And so through that role, I've been speaking at lots of webinars this year to, lots of audiences, from primary school girls to mums and daughters to people in East Africa, pretty much anyone that will let me talk to them, I've been talking to through work and through WISE, just about engineering and about how it really is for anyone, and trying to push that point to as many people as I can.
Well, you are an absolute inspiration and a huge difference maker. Thank you so much, Beth. Many congratulations becoming a YWE finalist, and best of luck. Lovely to talk to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Dan.
It's been so lovely chatting to our finalists and getting to know a bit more about them. But now it's your turn to ask our finalists some questions. Whoa, are you inspired now, or what? How amazing was that? Now we've got a chance to ask the amazing finalists some questions. There's been some really good questions. I've just had a quick look on the chat. So let's get started with that. So hopefully we're going to see everyone in the room at the same time. Hello, everyone.
Hello.
Hey. So I can point to people now. Okay, so we've had lots and lots of questions. Let's start with the first question is from Ali. Why do you think engineering has such a perception problem? Now, feel free to chip in, but I'm going to start with Beth. Why do you think engineering's still got a perception problem? Or has it got a perception problem?
I think it definitely does still have one. I think it's a smaller problem than it used to be. And with each year that goes by, and with events like this and more outreach and a bigger push for diversity in engineering, it's definitely a problem that is going away and hopefully will one day no longer exist. I think it exists purely because when engineering started out, well, I don't know when you can say engineering started out, but modern engineering started, it was definitely a more male-dominated workplace. It was during a time when women perhaps didn't even really work at all or weren't expected to work. And I think the image of engineering just got so set in our minds as a collective society, and it was set so strongly that it takes a lot of effort to get those stereotypes and those images out of your heads and replace, you know, what you think an engineer is with who they actually are. I don't think any of the six of us perhaps look like your stereotypical engineer, and I think that we are working really hard as a group and as a nation and a world to reduce that problem further.
Wouldn't it be great to get to a point where you are the stereotypical engineer?
I'd love to get to a point where there is no stereotypical engineer.
Yes, there we go.
That'd be amazing.
Good point. Okay, so next question. Was getting a job in engineering difficult? Now, Neera, I'm going to pass that to you because you know we just heard about your really interesting route into engineering. So was it getting a job in engineering difficult?
I think when I graduated, there was quite a lot of engineering jobs out there. There weren't that many in London, and that's where I kind of wanted to be. So I found that a little bit difficult. And applying for the actual grad schemes and jobs was actually really difficult. I remember doing my coursework on the trains when I was going up and down the country doing assessment centres and everything. So whilst I think that the actual application process and the assessment process is quite tough, there is so much opportunity out there, and I think we know that there's far more jobs for engineers than there are people finishing with engineering degrees or joining apprenticeships. So I would say that that's actually a positive for everyone kind of leaving school and higher education. So yeah, don't worry about having any issues about getting jobs, because engineers are always going to be needed.
Anybody else want to chip in with that?
I'll just add on to the back of Neera's comment. I think the crucial point there being is that there are so many engineering opportunities in the country, and there are more jobs than people at the moment. So don't be put off by the fact that it's got a stigma that you have to be really smart to be an engineer. You have to put in a lot of effort. I mean, the application processes are long, but it's no different to any other jobs. And make sure you do your research, because there's definitely an engineering career out there for you.
And I'd also like to add that you don't have to take kind of the degree route. There's a lot of companies now that are offering apprenticeships and internships, and you can kind of do both on the job as well. So there are companies that will take you on as an apprentice, but also pay for your degree, so you don't end up with any student loans. And for somebody like me, because I came to this country as a refugee child, I actually didn't have access to engineering for many years because of my status in the country. And I would like to tell all the refugees and asylum seekers out there that, there are now 75 universities and counting that accept asylum seekers to university. So hopefully these routes will be available in all universities soon as well.
Amazing. That's a really, really good point. Really good. Okay, what engineering challenge would you like to solve? I'm going to give you 3 different eras. So Shruk in 5 years, Melanie in 10 years, and Denise in 20 years. So Shruk, what engineering challenge would you like to solve in 5 years?
In 5 years. I've always wanted to have things that I've designed that go into space. I'm not sure if that will happen within the next 5 years, but I'd love to solve, some of humanity's greatest problems, like carbon emissions, for example. And I'd really love to put femtech on the map even more, and not just kind of slap some pink over something and be like, here you are, this tech is for women now,
That is a good challenge. 5 years, off you go, Shrug. Melanie, 10 years.
So it's something that is quite dear to me, but I'm currently working on the diagnosis of sepsis, which is basically when your immune system overreacts to an infection or an injury. And we have people dying from sepsis every hour in the UK. And engineers have a really big role in also helping health professionals to develop new technology. So I'm definitely hoping that within 10 years, I will be able to develop a technology that will be able to make a change for sepsis diagnosis.
Wow, that sounds so cool.
Absolutely. Great. Okay, and Denise, 20 years.
I think the engineering challenges, I think the main 2 that I'd say would be our kind of global world that we live in, as well as improving quality life. So just touching on the first one, kind of engineering these new solutions to improve the world we live in, renewable energy sources, and kind of then lead on to quality of life, where we're engineering things that kind of help people, that being from kind of getting food and water, clean air, and just everything affecting our everyday lives.
And do you think that's doable in 20 years?
I think so, with the amount of talent that we've got in the world currently, and the amount of talent we're going to curate in our future generations, from role models such as ourselves and other people working in the whole entire industries, that there's definitely going to be more engineers and geniuses going to kind of create a huge better world for all of us.
Yeah. Well, we're in pretty good hands just in this room. Okay, thank you very much. Now the other 3, you haven't got off it, because I've got another question for you 3. So for Beth, Neera and Ella, where do you see yourself in 30 years?
Wow. I would hope to say retired, but that might not happen.
That's me.
I would like to see myself still working in the construction and transport industry. I feel like I've found a real passion and love for it, and the fact that I can use the tube and see what I've been doing at work impacting me actually physically using it. I wouldn't want to lose that sense of being so in touch with what I do at work. But I would hope to be in a stage where I can have a bigger platform to be able to reach all of these young men and women much more than I have been able to now, because at the moment I go to a couple schools here and there, and use kind of like my spare time. So I'd like to have a bit more time dedicated to that sort of STEM activities ambassador role in the future, and hopefully bring along people with me, because that's, I think, a very important thing for people that don't do STEM events and activities. How do we encourage more people to use their voices? So a bit of a professional one, but also about STEM ambassador work.
Nice, really.
Yeah, I would be exactly the same, really. I don't want to lose my technical craft that we've been doing for these years, being a material scientist, engineer at heart. I don't want to stray too far away from that. I've absolutely loved the combination that I can bring, like real techie stuff that I do in the lab to cars. Like, I love that hybridized element of the lab and business. So I want to remain an engineer. I would love to use the platform and hopefully develop the platform even further, just like Neera said, by reaching people who know what engineering was about or didn't think engineering was for them, or if I relate to just one person, I think that would be a success. So really love to branch out my platform, and then maybe own a McLaren. Maybe I'll by then,
Nice. Yes. And remember your friends here when you do.
Yeah, please.
Gosh, in 30 years, I think I'd definitely still like to be a software engineer. I hope I'll be chartered in 30 years or less. That would be really exciting, taking on the next steps in my professional development. I don't know what I'll be coding though. I think a lot of industries today are going more and more digital by the second and relying more heavily on technology. So, right now, whilst I'm working mainly in the rail industry, I could be helping code spaceships, which I would love, and European Space Agency, if you're here, let me know. But I'd love to be involved in space. I'd love to just be coding something that still makes a difference to the world. I think that's something I do love about my job. I think Ella mentioned it in her part of the video earlier, is that we're not just solving problems for the sake of it. We're having an impact on the world around us that's positive and helps people. And so I hope I'm still doing that. I also hope I'm still involved in outreach as heavily as I am. I imagine I will still be a scout leader in 30 years, 40 years, 50 years, and that will never change. And I hope I'm still actively promoting diversity in engineering if it's still needed. Ideally, it won't be needed in 30 years' time, but if it is, I hope I'm still supporting the cause and championing all the amazing women in engineering that need a spotlight shone on them.
I think it's lovely. You've all said a very similar thing, either during the chats we had or now in the Q&A, where you still see it very much part of your job to inspire that next generation. It's not something that you might do on a Friday afternoon if you've got a bit of time. It's sort of very much a fundamental part, which I think is really important, isn't it? Okay, I'm going to try and wrap a couple of questions together. And I'm going to ask you all this, okay? What's the most exciting, hardest project you've worked on, and include something that you failed in along the way, because failure is really important for us, right? So something that is exciting or hard, or something you failed in. Okay, Melanie, I'm going to come to you first.
All right. So I'm going to go for. I worked recently on a project where we manufactured blood. So I didn't know that you can do that. It's like
wow.
Blood. Well, obviously we still need transfusion, right? So haven't solved the issue. But what was quite hard is that obviously, because it is to inject in people, you need to be very careful on how you process the samples. Obviously, you have a lot of regulations around that can be quite hard to. It can be quite hard to find an engineering solution to solve everything. So it was exciting and challenging at the same time, but still working on it. So and yeah, especially as a researcher, I can say that we learn through failure. My job is to build knowledge, and that knowledge comes from failure. So that's how it works.
Good, thanks, Melanie. Right, I'm going to go this way. Shruk.
Hi, so I'm gonna say actually my very first engineering placement, and I was still a student then, and I joined a group of eye surgeons, so surgeons who operate on the eye, and they wanted me to develop this system that helps them with eye surgery, and I was like, I've literally got 1 year of engineering under me. Why do you think I can do this? And the thing is, as soon as I related it to a game I used to play with when I was younger, I was like, wait, I got this, I can do this, and I did it. And it's just like, these toys that we play with as young people have really such an impact on us. And we're like, why do we give, Legos to boys and Barbie dolls to girls? And I think we could all do our bit to challenge that and change this for the future.
Brilliant. Thanks, Shruk. Right, this way, Denise.
So I think I'm going to touch on two things. So one of my failures to now, which is leading into one of my most exciting projects I'm working on. So as a MD engineering technician, we actually need to be professionally qualified in our various techniques. So my first kind of exams I had to go to was the magnetic particle inspection. And with that, you have to pass the theory side and practical side. Did really well on my theory, but missed a defect in one of my practical samples, which means that I couldn't gain that qualification. So I had to then go resit that. Luckily, I got it on the second time around. And with that kind of failure, it did knock me in the beginning. Obviously, I wanted to excel in it and do really well. But further along the line, when I did start using my techniques more and then going on more of these kind of professional qualifications, I'm now working on implementing new modern technology into the business called eddy current array, which is trying to act as a better alternative compared to the magnetic particle inspection method that I dipped on the first time. So I think that failure kind of gave me the boost of confidence to kind of do even better in the future wise. And failures are always going to be inevitable. Don't be scared of them as like advice. They're there to help you learn, and sometimes you get more lessons out of that, as well as celebrating all your small successes.
Brilliant. Yeah, fail fast and learn. Brilliant. Thanks, Denise. Okay, this way, Beth.
Gosh, so there's a failure that sticks in my mind, which is when I'd been on my first project for only 3 weeks, and I'd only been in the business for 6-7 weeks at the time, so I was still very new in general. And this was a really great first impression to make on all my teammates. So I was programming away, and so once you've finished programming on a branch, you merge it into the main piece of code so that everyone else can access the changes you've made. And I accidentally changed a file that I didn't realize I changed, wasn't supposed to change, and the change went into the main branch, and everyone said was fine, working away. Everyone sat next to me, and then I got some emails from our remote team over in Portugal who had told me I'd broken a lot of their tools that they were trying to use that day, and I needed to fix it immediately. And that was incredibly embarrassing. And obviously got it fixed very quickly, and it was all sorted. But I think, if anything, that just taught me that, because I thought my team would be upset with me, but they're all incredibly supportive, helped me get it fixed really quickly. We all laughed about it very soon afterwards. And I think it taught me that, you know, no matter how new you are into a company, if the culture's right, you'll feel like a family very quickly, and everyone will always bond together to work together to solve problems, which is something I love about engineering. Is you're never on your own. Even though I'm sat here in my home office away from my team, I'm never on my own, and everyone will always pull together to help.
Really nice. Thanks, Beth. Neera, and then Ella is the last word from you, because we've run out of time, unfortunately. So Neera first.
So I'll say that the most exciting project I've worked on is the bank station capacity upgrade. So when you go to bank station and you're walking around, you would have no idea what's happening underground. There is a massive amount of work that happens literally just like, you know, a couple feet below you. Massive brand new tunnels, tunneling while people are working, walking, the buses are going. And that project was the real first construction project that I worked on, that I stood there and I thought, wow, this is insane. Like, it's the most amazing thing I've seen. So that's a really exciting project. Google it if you've not heard about it. And the hardest thing I'll say is when I got promoted from assistant engineer to project engineer, I joined a new team at the same time as getting my promotion. So I had a new project I was managing. I was managing a multi-million-pound package of works, and I had to manage people. And I was really chucked in the deep end, and I actually quite struggled. I struggled with, you know, the organisation of managing people and a project. I struggled with, you know, how do you keep to time? How do you keep to budget? I wasn't kind of kept, I didn't have my manager to fall back on anymore. I was that person, and I did struggle. But I learned from it. I learned that I needed to be more confident. I learned that I needed to not second guess myself. And I kind of leaned a lot on people, like my friends at TfL that I knew were in senior positions. So it was something that I didn't, you know, overcome. It was something that I still think I could have worked on. But I know now that when I do get a senior role, I'll kind of be in a better situation to kind of like figure myself out.
Yeah, thanks, Neera. And Ellen.
So it's funny, actually, my sort of failure, or what I consider failure or stumble in my path would be similar to what Neera is saying with like people. It was also on my industrial placement year, and I was fresh out of uni, quite a energetic engineer. I wanted to change the world and do all these things. And I came into McLaren as like a process engineer, straight into the manufacturing line. And they basically wanted me to adapt and enhance processes to make us a more efficient production line. And I learned very quickly that you couldn't be bossy. You had to be your individual self. And it was kind of like a big personal lesson for me. I thought I had to be very masculine, very tough. I had to be a bit shouty. I was brought down a peg or two, and it was really interesting because trying to get message across to different people, but also to a large body of people. And we're talking about 2 shifts of about 200, 250 people on the manufacturing lines. I'm listening to a younger person from a female younger person fresh from uni would have been challenging anyway. So understanding that dynamic was proper key for me going on to my career in McLaren later on. In terms of my best project, I think the latest one with the Speedtail for me was fantastic. These cars, as we tend to bring out a new idea, I think I said in the video, like when these cars come out, sometimes you do sort of catch yourself and you think, oh my goodness, how did we do this? And there are so many features on the Speedtail that are an automotive world first, and so many challenges that bringing it from the lab to production, and how thin things are and how beautiful, and the materials that we use on there, everything from platinum gold to carbon fiber to graphene, like it's really exciting. So that one still has a special place in my heart.
Brilliant. And make sure you tell those stories to everyone. They're so inspirational. It's been just amazing talking to you all. Absolutely fantastic. A round of applause for the difference makers. Absolutely brilliant. Thank you all, to you. And thank you to everyone watching and who's given us the questions as well. Sorry if we missed some. We'll try and tweet some if we can as well. So thank you very much. And I can't wait to see the 6 of you in March. Thank you very much. Bye. Wow, there were some great questions during the Q&A session. Thanks so much. I really enjoyed that. What incredible finalists we have this year. The work they're doing is so varied and really important, and I've absolutely loved chatting to them all and getting to know them. I hope you've all enjoyed watching this programme today and are even more excited about the ceremony in March. I know I am. And registration for the ceremony is now officially open. You can head to iet.org/YWE for more information. A big thank you to our sponsors for supporting and celebrating our YWE Awards. And a huge thank you to all of our incredible finalists. You're all amazing difference makers. Thank you all for joining us today, and we hope to see you all at the ceremony on Thursday, the 4th of March next year.